I'm so sorry. I was trying to help someone get into the meeting that can't get in.
Okay. Is it Linda?
No, it's Jim Kennedy. I just have to. Not sure what's going on. See if I can.
Let me know when you're ready, Janice. Council. We are meeting electronically due to COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic in accordance with the Governor Sununu's Emergency Order Number 12 pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04. Please note that in accordance with the Governor's emergency order, we have provided public notice of the necessary information for accessing this meeting. Instructions are provided on our agenda on the City of Concord's website at concordnewhampshire.ledgistar.calendar.aspx. We are utilizing the Zoom platform for this electronic meeting. All members of the City Council have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting, and the public has access to listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting through clicking on the following website address: us.j/894-259-18333. If any member of the public does not have a website access, they may dial the telephone number 1-929-205-6099. If dialing from a landline, you may call in toll-free at 877-853-5257. The webinar ID number 894-205-6099 259-1-8333. For those who want to provide public testimony in the public hearing portion of the meeting and you are connected to the Zoom website, you may click on the raise hand icon in the attendees section to make the request. When the time is appropriate, you will be recognized by me and you can provide your testimony. For members of the public who are participating by phone, you may dial *9, council meeting at concordnewhampshire.gov. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting, we will adjourn the meeting and have it rescheduled at that time. Please note that all votes are taken during the meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting with a roll call attendance. When you state your presence at the meeting, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Thank you, Madam Clerk. You may call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Bouchard,
I'm present and I am home alone.
Mayor Boulay,
Excused.
Councillor Champlin,
I am present and I am alone in a.
Fennessy,
I'm here in a room alone at my house.
Councillor Grady Sexton,
I am present and I'm here alone in a room in my home. Thank you.
Councillor Hatfield,
I'm here alone in a room in my house.
Councillor Keach,
I'm present at home alone in my home.
Councillor Kennison,
Present, home, alone.
Councillor Credit,
I am at home. My husband is in this room. His name is Bill. He's looking for the mouse that the cat stole, like the computer mouse, but I will be alone shortly.
Councillor Mattson,
Excused.
Councillor Nyan,
I am present at home alone.
Councillor Pierce,
Present at home alone.
Councillor Rice Hawkins,
Present at home in this room alone.
Councillor Todd,
Here at home alone in this room.
and Councillor Warner.
I am here alone in this room.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have a quorum. A reminder for the public, if you have a question or any trouble accessing this meeting, please call 603-230-4619 or send an email to citycouncilmeeting@concordnh.gov. And a reminder to council members, please mute yourself when you're not speaking. Please click on the raised hand icon in the participant section of your Zoom screen. Also, if viewing in gallery view, wave your hand in front of the camera to make sure you are heard. In your Zoom screen, change your view in the upper right corner from speaker view to gallery view to see all panelists. So with that, Councillor Champlin, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all.
Thank you. And may I have a motion to seal the minutes from our non-public?
So moved.
Council Credit moves, seconded by Councillor Grady Sexton. Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Bouchard,
Yes to seal the minutes.
Councillor Champlin,
Yes.
Councillor Fennessy,
Yes.
Counselor Grady Sexton,
Yes.
Counselor Hatfield,
Yes.
Counselor Keach,
Yes.
Counselor Kennison, Counselor Kennison, is she still with us?
I don't see her.
Okay. Counselor Kretovic,
Yes.
Counselor Nyan,
Yes.
Counselor Pierce,
Yes.
Counselor Rice Hawkins,
Yes.
Counselor Todd,
Yes.
and Counselor Warner.
Yes.
The motion to seal the minutes is approved. Next on the agenda is our meeting minutes from the August 10th, 2020 City Council meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve made by Counselor Fennessy, seconded by Counselor Grady Sexton. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll? Approval of
Mayor.
the, yep,
Sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Bouchard, sorry about that.
not my fault. Yes to approving the August Council City minutes.
Counselor Champlin,
Yes.
Counselor Fennessy,
Yes.
Counselor Grady Sexton,
Yes.
Counselor Hatfield,
Yes.
Counselor Keach.
Yes.
Don't see Counselor Kennison. Counselor Kretovic,
Yes.
Counselor Nyan,
Yes.
Counselor Pierce,
Yes.
Counselor Rice Hawkins,
Yes.
Counselor Todd,
Yes.
and Counselor Warner.
Yes.
All right. The August 10th, 2020 City Council meeting minutes have been approved. So as you can see tonight, Mayor Jim Belay is not with us at this moment, but he will be joining us later in the meeting. So far, if I'm correct, Madam Clerk, nothing has been pulled from the consent calendar. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And we did receive additional testimony on agenda item 27G. You should all have that. And we have one suspense item that has been added. And with that, I think we can move on. I think we have a program presentation from the library. Is Director Fabian.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, good evening. We appreciate you giving us this opportunity to update you on the library needs assessment and preliminary conceptual design. Thanks to funding from the City Council and the Concord Public Library Foundation, we started this process in the winter and are very pleased with where we have ended up now. Last week, Udens LO Architecture presented this information to the library trustees and the Library Foundation. And tonight we'll be running through a brief presentation and can answer any questions that you might have. So I'm going to turn things over to Matt Udens and Chris Genter now from Udens LO Architecture, and they can start the presentation for you guys. Thank you.
Can you all hear me? And can you
Yes.
see me as well? I don't see myself on here, so I don't know if I'm in the meeting. I see I'm in.
See you.
We see an M.
So I have a presentation to share, but I don't see an option to share screen.
We'll add that in a minute. Okay. Mr. Arters has been promoted to a panelist.
Great. Let me share my screen. Can you all see this title slide with the front entrance of the library?
Yes.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Good evening, my name is Matt Odens. I'm a principal at Odens LO Architecture. I'm joined tonight by Chris Genter, a senior associate with our firm, who's been serving as project manager for this project. We were hired in March, just prior to the COVID-19 shutdown, to conduct a concept study for the renovation and expansion of the Concord Public Library, building on a needs assessment report that was completed in 2007. Our work began with a verification of the proposed building program from the 2007 study, bringing it in line with today's needs with the help of Todd and the library staff. This slide illustrates the proposed programmatic growth as compared to the existing building. Each programmatic group, adults, children, teens, etc., increases in size, largely driven by a desire to make a greater percentage of the collection, which is currently located in closed stacks in the basement, more accessible to patrons. One of the most notable increases in this overall program is 122% increase in flexible community program space, things like study rooms, activity spaces, meeting rooms, classrooms, etc. And this is consistent with current practice in public libraries throughout the country. Overall, the proposed building represents a 28% growth in total building area, a 50% growth in net program. And as you can tell from those numbers, we're also improving the current building's net to gross efficiency ratio from 56% to 68%. While there's no proposed collection growth, the diagram on the right shows that a much larger percentage will be accommodated in patron accessible shelving throughout the renovated and expanded building, rather than located in the closed stacks in the basement. And that translates to a 91% growth in accessible collection materials within the library. We began the study of building expansion potential with a quick review of zoning. The library is located at the corner of Green and Prince Streets. It's in the Civic Performance District, where the library is a permitted use. Zoning restrictions include a uniform 15-foot setback from all property lines, a 45-foot maximum height, and a maximum 80% lot coverage. The latter two restrictions don't limit our growth potential in the proposed plan at all. The existing building is about 31 feet tall, and we're maintaining the existing building on Green Street. The existing building, as you can see in the slide, does encroach slightly on the 15-foot setback in the northwest corner of the site. It's highlighted here in orange. The current building is comprised of two main parts: the original building dating back to 1940 and a 1965 addition, which includes an elevator. Considering the tremendous shortcomings of that addition, too numerous to list now, but hopefully apparent to everyone that's spent time in the library, our proposal from the outset was to remove the 1965 addition in its entirety and replace it with a new approximately 20,000 square foot two-story addition, which is proposed to be a slab on grade building in consideration of the subsurface water challenges on the site and a lack of suitable below grade program. Building fully to the limits of the buildable area, as you can see in this diagram, behind the 1940 building yields a footprint of 11,375 square feet. In all of our work, especially in our public library projects, we look for ways to create usable outdoor space, maximizing natural light, views, and access to outdoor program space for patrons and for staff. So carving garden space out of that buildable area leaves us, as you see here, with about 10,000 square feet on each of two levels. We also considered the impact of on-site parking, which would limit the available footprint to 7,500 square feet, necessitating a three-story addition to the two-story existing building, which presented challenges in terms of program distribution and staffing. It also triggered certain code requirements that we found to be onerous. The proposal is not to provide on-site parking, to utilize street parking and hopefully find another location for dedicated library parking. As I mentioned, our recommendation from the start has been to remove the 1965 addition in its entirety. We also recommended a significant renovation of the central portion of the 1940 building to open it up in a way that facilitates patron wayfinding and staff supervision. Our proposed new addition occupies the western half of the site and plugs into the 1940 building with dedicated secure outdoor space for adults and children. Given the challenges of reconciling building growth with the tight constraints of the site, we propose a couple of additional minor encroachments into the setback, most notably along Prince Street, as you can see highlighted here in orange. The existing entrance from Green Street, which is on the right-hand side of the slide, is maintained as the primary entrance, with a secondary entrance proposed along Prince Street, both arriving at a centrally located circulation desk in the newly renovated lobby, providing maximum visual supervision by staff. A new elevator, highlighted here in yellow, is located in the footprint of the 1940 building in a more central location than it currently occupies, and directly opposite the new circulation desk. The addition along Prince Street houses the children's wing with a dedicated craft room. It's easily accessible from the new entrance, and a 120-seat meeting room relocated up from the existing basement where it is now. Young adults are relocated from a back corner room to a more prominent and easily supervised location at the front of the existing library, and the existing periodicals room is maintained in its current location with the addition of expanded public computer workstations. We propose reconfiguring the existing open stair, which is adjacent to the entry vestibule from Green Street, the open stair to the second floor, to make it more visible for patrons, number one, and easier for staff to monitor. Currently, it discharges into the vestibule. It's difficult to find. It's difficult for staff to see. There is another open stair proposed, which is directly across from the Prince Street entrance between the meeting room and the circulation desk. The addition is designed with maximum flexibility in mind, providing a way to secure most areas of the library, in this case by way of a stainless steel sliding security grille. You can see an image of a standard kind of product on the right. This allows us to secure the main part of the library while access to the community meeting room, lobby, breakout space, the central garden space, and public restrooms are still made available by way of that Prince Street entrance. And the proposed new location of the Shakespeare Room, currently located on the second floor of the library, now down on the first floor, allows it to provide additional flexible community program space accessible off hours. So you would have two different sized meeting rooms available to the public when the library is not outside of normal library hours. The expanded second floor, which you see here, houses the bulk of the adult collection and program space. Study rooms and a makerspace / classroom provide additional resources that aren't available in the existing building. The program is organized around a newly opened skylit central atrium space. That space exists today, but it's really closed off from the rest of the building on the upper floor. Technical services, which is the largest portion of staff space currently located in the basement of the existing building, is relocated up to this floor, and the balance of staff offices are distributed throughout the building. In our opinion, the only program really that's suitable for location in the basement of the existing building is the archives and special collections. Given moisture management challenges and limited ceiling height, we propose excavating the portion of the basement containing that area down so that we can increase headroom, but also allow for installation of below slab moisture management. We're further proposing trenching in the remaining portions of the existing slab to install under slab drainage in those areas, again, for moisture management. The archives and special collections would have a dedicated HVAC system with dedicated humidification as well. And we discussed two options for potential expansion of archives to allow potential storage of city records. One would be expanding it within the footprint of the existing building, as you see here, labeled number 1. That's contingent on being able to continue to provide adequate space for collection storage in the basement, although we are moving, as I said, a large portion of that up into the main floors of the library. And then the other option is to create a small new basement below the addition. Would be all new construction, so easier to build it in a way that manages the subsurface conditions. Neither of these two options is currently reflected in the construction estimate, which we'll talk about at the end. This is a side-by-side comparison now of three-dimensional floor plans of existing on the right and proposed library on the left. And this is the first floor. You can see how the center of the existing building is opened up, and the 1965 addition is replaced by the new addition to the west. On the second floor, you can see how the central atrium is opened up to improve visibility and wayfinding, allow natural light to reach centrally located program space. And the current dead-end circulation that we have in the existing building, you can see it on the right, is reconciled in the new plan with a continuous loop circulation facilitating wayfinding. And then the roof plan shows the proposed skylight, sawtooth skylight clear story system over the atrium on the left, increasing the amount of natural light at the center of the building. And then on the right, the roof space that's currently located between the 1940 building and the 1965 addition, that well that's right in the middle of the building, actually gets filled in with adult program on the second floor, and the new skylights roof over that. So that's captured space in the new building. The general orientation of the clear story lighting and the east-west orientation of the addition with potentially south-facing roof, we think lends itself well to the possible incorporation of a roof-mounted solar array. Now for some interior views. These are very preliminary, obviously, but this is a preliminary interior view at the ground level upon entry from Green Street, looking through the lobby toward the central garden at the back. This is another interior view from the second floor at the southeast corner, so the Prince and Green Street corner of the existing building, looking across the atrium space to the adult stacks. All freestanding book stacks in the library are designed to be low enough to see over. Stacks against walls can be higher. This increases visibility, staff oversight, and a general sense of openness in the building. And then this is a section, a diagrammatic section through the main lobby, so you get a sense of how that clear story lighting works. And this is an interior view of one of our recently completed public library projects. This shows a similar approach in terms of bringing natural light into the center of the building, as well as the kind of general openness to adjacent interior spaces. And coincidentally, this the size and proportions of this space are almost identical to the size and proportions of the current central atrium space in the library. So we think there's a lot of potential there for transformation. And then this is a view from the corner of Green and Prince Streets, really to illustrate that we intend to preserve the existing exterior of the 1940 building to the greatest extent possible. We don't think that the roof solution over the atrium will even be visible from the street. And then lastly, this is a view from the children's program room, looking down the length of the garden space towards the building lobby. And then lastly, to wrap up with a cost summary, at the end of our study and based on the preceding proposal, we conducted with a cost estimator a preliminary construction cost estimate, and it breaks down as follows. Demolition of the existing 1965 addition is about $78,000. Renovation of the existing 1940 building is $6.2 million, or $262 a square foot. Construction of the addition and related site work is $7.5 million, or $364 a square foot. Adding those together, you get a total direct cost of 13.8 million with a blended average of $311 a square foot. On top of that, we add contingencies and markups, design contingency escalation through spring of 2022, which we anticipate is the start of construction, general conditions, profit, all the things that go along with that. That adds about 5.9 million to the total construction cost, bringing you to a total of 19.7 million, which is $440 a square foot construction. And that's considerably less than what we typically see in the Boston market, at least, which is about $550 a square foot for a comparable building. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions that you have.
Any questions, Councilor Chaplin?
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. This may be a question for Mr. Fabian. If I may have missed it, but I did not see the Concord room replicated in the floor plan. I'm wondering what happens to that collection. Does it go into archives in the basement, or is it still generally accessible to the general public?
Yeah, this is Todd. Yeah, that's part of the repository that you saw in the basement photos. So yeah, it would just be a much more increased spatially, and of course, climate controlled. So the preservation would be, much greater.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
You're welcome. Councilor Keach, question?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. First, a comment. The great presentation. I think that it shows great vision. In my past 10 years on the council, some of the pushback I've continually received is libraries are outdated, and the proposal I just saw sort of reinvents and demonstrates what a modern library looks like. So I really appreciate that. My question is partially been answered. You mentioned the Boston cost of $550 a square foot. In your proposal, you mentioned $440 a square foot. Do you have any idea what the difference might be between, the New Hampshire market and the Boston market?
I think it comes down to labor pool primarily. According to our estimator, and we've done a lot of work with this estimator, probably 14 public library projects with him, among other projects. So we're very confident in his abilities to predict the markets. And his feeling really is that, once you're outside of the greater Boston area, the prices go down. Now that depends obviously on where you are and what the other factors are. But for, a major city like Concord, although not Boston, he thought the market was just a little softer than it is in the Boston area.
Good. Thank you. And thank you for your work.
Thanks.
Councilor Pierce, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Just a general question. As I'm looking at designs of buildings nowadays, do you design buildings today, given the effects of the pandemic that we're going through now and future social distancing that we know is going to be taking place in the next few years? And if so, is any of that incorporated into this design?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, very recently, our office participated in a panel with the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners. They oversee construction of all public libraries in the state. And we've been very much engaged with them over the last 10 years. And it was an interesting discussion. It was exactly that, how do we plan for build into building planning things that will allow us to be more nimble in terms of response. And really the thing that came out of that is there needs to be the ability to quickly transition from one model to another. So, to allow closing and curbside checking and then a slow reopening with smaller numbers, not unlike what you've seen, your Todd and your library staff do in Concord. And a number of things that we have always felt very strongly about in our approach to design of public buildings, and this isn't just libraries, this is really any public building, is a connection to its particular place, and more specifically, a direct connection to outdoor space. We really think that's invaluable for a public building to provide an opportunity for people to get outside, either in a structured way or in a casual way. In our museum work, it enables people to extend their visit, stay longer because they can get outside, take a break, come back in. And when there is a place that they can use that's part of that building, we find it really contributes to the life of the building. It also has a big impact on the people that work in that building, whether it's library staff or it's some other user. In the case of, sort of post-pandemic design, I think it also gives you the added flexibility of having outdoor space that you can use as you're trying to spread out. Having outdoor space available to you is important. Today was my daughter's first day back at school, and I'm happy to report that they're on a big campus with a lot of room for outdoor tents. And they wouldn't have been able to start without that ability to access outdoor space. So we see that as an important component. Similarly, in the building, storage allows you to be a little more flexible with furniture. So if you want to reduce the number of occupants, one of the ways to do that is reduce the number of seats available. And so what do you do with those seats? Not everybody can move those off site. So having the ability to be flexible in the way that you arrange furniture, that's a more difficult thing to accommodate because storage is space that needs to be built and paid for. So there's a premium that goes with that. Another thing that has been talked about a lot is public restrooms. We've already seen a move or a trend towards single occupancy restrooms really related to gender identity issues over the last handful of years. And increasingly, we're providing more and more single occupancy, gender neutral restrooms. When you get into multi-stall restrooms, it's harder from the gender neutrality standpoint. It's also harder from, the sort of separation in a pandemic environment. So that also brings a cost with it. And so you have to balance, your vision for how that really responds to the pandemic with the realities of a budget. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Hatfield?
Thank you, and thank you for that presentation. It's exciting. My questions are around energy, and I was wondering, I don't know if you know, but the current building has a history of windows open in the winter to try to deal with the heat issues. And so I wonder if you could speak to the heat source, how you've incorporated energy efficiency, and if you could also speak to how that might impact operating costs, and if there's also an opportunity to seek, offsets to some of the costs through the utility efficiency programs.
Sure. Well, let me start by saying that building performance, energy performance, and sustainability are focuses of ours on all of our projects. Doesn't matter if they're pursuing LEED, if they're pursuing rebates or grants. We just see that as the responsible way to design buildings today. So with that, I would say that we would start sort of at a baseline of, this needs to be a high performing building. In terms of the existing systems, we see this as a full replacement of the existing systems to new energy efficient systems. Generally, the systems that we tend to rely on for public libraries are electrically powered heat pump systems, a variable refrigerant flow system. You might be familiar with Daikin or Mitsubishi. There are a number of different manufacturers, and they've become quite common, easier to source and easier to maintain. They are also much easier to zone. They require less ductwork, and they're very energy efficient. If you couple those with on-site energy production through solar, for instance, you can offset your utility costs quite dramatically. In fact, we did a library on Cape Cod that is LEED Gold certified net zero building with 100% on-site renewable energy. We had enough solar panels on the roof to provide more than enough energy than the building uses, averaged out over the course of the year. So we're pretty proud about that. We have another public library in Belmont, Massachusetts that is currently being planned as a net zero facility. So again, that's a priority of ours. You know, here it's early to say exactly what we would do, but you know, the sort of rule of thumb is you start with a really tight building envelope. That's harder to do, obviously, when you're dealing with an existing building that dates back to 1940 or earlier, especially a masonry building that can be somewhat unforgiving. But there are ways around that, and on plenty of historic buildings where energy has been a concern. We did a renovation expansion of the McKim White building at Bowdoin College, the Bowdoin College Museum of Art, that was able to bring that building up to museum quality HVAC controls, coupling it with a geothermal system. So we'll have to see what works here. Obviously, as part of the next phase, building off of studies that have happened to date, we'll want to take another look at the exterior envelope of the existing building. I know the windows were replaced not that long ago, and some improvements have been made in terms of water infiltration, but we'll want to get a better sense of the thermal performance as well. So tight envelope is number one, and energy efficient systems are a close second. You know, right sizing the system. If it's too big, it's going to be much less efficient to run. So we want that system to be sized appropriately for this building. We have an engineer on our team who we have a successful track record with and are confident that we could design a new system. We also, I think, want to get rid of things like the huge spiral ducts that you see in the existing building and make a system that's better integrated into the building, both the existing and the new. I don't know if that fully answered your question, but you asked about rebates, I think, or pursuit of incentives. We have done that for different clients. We've gotten rebates from utility companies. Our work with the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners includes a green incentive grant, and we've successfully gone after and achieved that that grant for a number of clients. And so we'd be happy to look at different opportunities related to building performance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kodovic.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Mr. Odens, thank you so much for your time and your presentation this evening. I have just two quick questions for you. The first one is, I noticed that when you showed the garden, it's on the westerly northern side of the building, which is not necessarily the kindest for growing plants or warmest during the winter months or the cold fall. Was there a specific reason you chose the colder side of the building?
We chose that side because we felt like it was the right thing to do to keep the building on the street. We're not going to move the 1940 building, so that's a given. And then, you know, it's a question of, do you create a larger front yard to a westerly addition along Prince Street, which is another option, or do you create a more private, more intimate, and more securable interior space? I should reiterate that this is a concept design. So what happens after this is a full year of building design. And we may find that we want to, you know, go back and take another look at some of these things. And I think that type of question could come up again in a schematic design phase. But I feel like there's a way to make that space inviting, both in terms of plants, you know, recognizing that this is New England. There are always going to be times when it's just too cold to go out there, but there are also plenty of times in the summer and in the shoulder seasons when that'll be a lovely place to be. You know, it's west facing, so we have afternoon solar gains to think about as well. But you know, the building will shade it from south light. In the summer, that'll be quite nice. in the colder months, it becomes more a still life that you see from inside the building. And it's, I think, it's as much a way to get natural light and views when you're in the building as it is to provide a destination for people using the building. So even on a snowy day, that garden would make for a brighter children's room or a brighter lobby. And the ability to come in from Green Street and see all the way through the building to natural light, I think helps pull people into the building. Right now, it feels very dense when you walk into the building. It's very cluttered. It's the program is very tight in that around that central space. Opening it up and creating that view through, I think will do a lot in terms of a general transformation of the overall feel. So I think all of those concerns have to be balanced in how we think about that kind of space.
Thank you. The second question I have, it has not been too long ago, perhaps 6-8 years, since a view of building a new library was looked at here in the community. And my question is, if we were to have a similar footprint to what you are proposing here, what would you estimate the cost of building brand new would be for such a facility? Thank you.
If I'm remembering correctly, the cost, hang on one second, let me grab my notes. Our new construction costs and related site work was about $364 a square foot. What's unclear to me at this stage is whether or not we can simply take that cost per square foot number and apply it to a new building somewhere else. There is value represented in the cost of the existing building that may not be reflected in that number. So I would say it's probably in between that number and $440 a square foot. $440 a square foot for conservative planning is probably not a bad place to start. Could it be less than that? Based on these numbers, it seems like it could potentially, but it's hard to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do not see any other hands raised. Any counselors have a question? Further question? This is very exciting. Thank you for your presentation. Very well done. Thank you. City Manager Espel, do we need to do anything, vote on this, accept this, or?
At this point, you would vote to accept the report, and then you can determine whether or not how to move forward with probably between the trustees and the foundation and the city council can think about what the next steps are separately.
Okay, thank you. So is there a motion?
I move we accept the report.
I'll second. With everyone.
So, Councillor Hatfield moves to accept the report and Councillor Kudovit moves to second. Any discussion? Seeing none. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Bouchard.
Yes to accept the report.
Mayor Boulay. I think he said yes, he's not unmuted.
Sorry, yes.
Thank you. Councillor Champlin.
Yes.
Councillor Fennessy.
Yes.
Councillor Grady Sexton.
Yes.
Councillor Hatfield.
Yes.
Councillor Keach.
Yes.
Councillor Kennison.
Yes.
Councillor Kretovic.
Yes.
Councillor Nine.
Yes.
Councillor Pierce.
Yes.
Councillor Rice Hawkins.
Yes.
Councillor Todd.
Yes.
And Councillor Warner.
Yes.
Motion passes to accept the report. Thank you. Mr. Espel, do we need to do anything else or can staff take the next steps?
We'll take the next steps.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you again. So now, going on, I need a motion to accept the consent calendar. Nothing has been pulled, so it'll be a motion to accept it as it is.
So moved. And seconded.
Okay, so moved by Councillor Champlin and seconded by Councillor Krekovich. So motion to accept the consent calendar. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Bouchard,
Yes.
Mayor Boulay,
Yes.
Councillor Champlin,
Yes.
Councillor Fennessy,
I'm going to recuse myself from item number 24, but otherwise I approve.
Councillor Grady Sexton,
Yes.
Councillor Hatfield,
Yes.
Councillor Keach,
Yes.
Councillor Kennison,
Yes.
Councillor Kretovic,
Yes.
Councillor Nyan,
Yes.
Councillor Pierce,
Yes.
Councillor Rice Hawkins,
Yes.
Councillor Todd,
Yes.
and Councillor Werner.
Yes.
Okay, motion to accept the consent calendar passed. Thank you. Next on, we go into our public hearing phase. I would like to ask the council to indulge me and to move item 27G. It's the item that concerns the fireworks ordinance. If we could move that out of order to be the first item on our public hearing agenda. We have a lot of public wanting to weigh in on this item, and just as a courtesy, if we can just move that to the front. Would there be a motion to do that?
I would make that motion.
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilor Nyan.
So Councillor Pierce moves to move item, public hearing item, agenda item 27G to be the first item, and seconded by, was it Councillor Nyan?
Yes.
Thank you. So, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
I was talking without unmuting myself. Sorry about that. Mayor Pro Tem Bouchard,
Yes.
Mayor Boulay,
Yes.
Mayor Boulay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yes.
Councillor Champlin,
Yes.
Councillor Fennessy,
Yes.
Councillor Grady Sexton,
Yes.
Councillor Hatfield,
Yes.
Councillor Keach,
Yes.
Councillor Kennison,
Yes.
Councillor Kretovic,
Yes.
Councillor Nyan,
Yes.
Councillor Pierce,
Yes.
Councillor Rice Hawkins,
Yes.
Councillor Todd,
Yes.
and Councillor Werner.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you read 27G for us, please?
Yes, it's an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Title I General Code, Chapter 14, Morals and Conduct, by adding a new Article 14-6 entitled Use of Class C Consumer Permissible Fireworks.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Spell, do you have any comment on the item?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, I believe the mayor is trying to get your attention.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Use the raised hand icon. I just didn't.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
I just want
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
taking Rule 6, and I will not be participating as my office represents a fireworks company. I have a conflict.
Okay. Please let the minutes show that the mayor took Rule 6. Thank you. So, I'm sorry. Mr. Spell, I didn't hear you. Did you have any comment?
I do not.
Okay. And did the city solicitor, did anyone want to speak to this before we open up the public hearing?
Jim? I have no comment, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. So I think we're ready for public comments. I'm not seeing anything. Mr. Spell, are you seeing anything on comments?
No,
Do
Madam.
we have anything from the public that's been called in or?
No, but we probably should just wait a few seconds in case of,
Okay,
for people on Concord TV.
okay.
I believe we've had a couple of dozen written comments regarding this ordinance.
We have, and they were included with our agenda, so we do have them.
No, so we have no public comment.
Okay, no public comment at all. All right, so I had a little gavel. I would close the public hearing. And I would further like to indulge the council if we could also move this out of order and take a vote on it now. Is there a motion?
Don't move.
Yes. Yes, Councillor Kennison.
Since we moved this up, is it possible that folks weren't expecting this at the first part of the meeting and perhaps are not responding because of that?
I have no idea what folks might have expected. I think as we move our council meetings forward, I think to know when an item would come up, I think people would sign in the beginning if they were interested in an item. But. Yes, Councillor Rice Hawkins.
Thank you. I had a similar comment to Councillor Kinnison. It's not any delay on our part. Why don't we just move back the vote until later and check again if there's any public comment, since this was scheduled at the end. I think it's great when we move up public comment in case there are a lot of people waiting, but given that there's nobody on right now, I'd hate to miss somebody who truly wanted to express comment later in the meeting. Thank you.
Any more comments from the council? Would the council like to wait till later in the public action phase before we vote on this?
Councilor Ryan has his hand up.
Sorry, who has their hand up?
Councilor Nyan.
Councilor Nyan.
Thank you, Your Honor. I really don't see any reason to, wait to vote on this. It's 8 o'clock. The library presentation went extremely long. This is the time period we'd normally be taking testimony and voting. So I see absolutely no reason whatsoever to delay the vote on this or to delay the council deliberations.
Further comment?
If I could go
yes,
next.
Councilors, City Manager.
Sorry to interrupt. You've already closed the hearing, so if someone else does have comment, that time is
too late.
And we're an hour into the meeting, so usually presentations at the beginning of the meeting, usually about 20 minutes. So you're actually about 40 minutes behind where you typically are.
And we did close the public hearing. Thank you for that reminder. Is there further?
Your Honor, do you need a motion to vote at this time?
I'd like a motion on the agenda item.
So I move we approve this item.
Is there a second? Councillor Pierce seconds. Councillor Hatfield moved to approve. Councillor Pierce second. Is there discussion? Councillor Pierce.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And thank you, Councillor Hatfield, for moving this. As you all know, I've been chasing this for quite some time. While we lacked vocal public comment, we've had many letters, many emails, people who couldn't be here expressing their concerns, from very supportive of a 10 to 10 limit and also supportive of outlawing fireworks altogether. So I want to thank the council and the public for weighing in on this. This new article, for those that are just hearing this for the first time, is only about limiting the time of discharge of Class C fireworks, which are typically known as the consumer fireworks, from 10 p.m. until 10 a.m. As we know, through all the emails. There's a number of issues. We have spoken in prior meetings about enforcement of this ordinance. But I would remind folks that while this is in the morals and conduct ordinance of chapter 14, when you look at the noise ordinance, and there is some continuity between them, it's very clear, and I quote, "It shall be unlawful for any person to make, continue, or cause to be made or continued an excessive, unnecessarily loud noise, which either annoys, disturbs, injures, or endangers the comfort, repose, health, peace of safety of others within the limits of the city." So I see this as an ordinance of respect. I also see that this as an opportunity to educate the public and just to let folks know that respect your neighbors and no fireworks between 10 and 10. And of course, the penalties are the same as it's a violation, it's a ticket. It's up to the discretion of the police when they write that ticket and or issue a warning. So I would very much like the council's support to pass this new ordinance. Thank you.
Councilor Kretovic, you have a question?
I do. I know Councilor Keach had his hand raised up before mine. If he wanted to go first, I would. No, he's good. Okay. I actually have a question for Chief Osgood with regards to enforcement. If we could bring him in the room, that would be awesome. The concern that I have around enforcement is this. We've received a number of emails from the same one or two individuals over the past 2 months. And during that time frame, it's been an escalating number of the fireworks are going off, people are afraid, it's in the middle of the night, they're in a place that is down by the river, it's not on private property, it's on public property, it is across the street, etc. My concern is that if the council passes this ordinance, the immediate response is going to be the first time fireworks go off at 10:01 p.m., that phone is going to ring at the police department, and the expectation is that the council or the police department on patrol is going to come and ticket those individuals. Is that a fair statement that our police department will be responding immediately to fireworks in any neighborhood?
Did I successfully unmute?
You did.
Oh, thank you. So I think that the answer to the question is that regardless of the time, if somebody is calling us, whether or not it's at 8 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, or at midnight for fireworks, it'll be handled like we've always handled it for years. We consider a non-priority call. We will make it a priority when we have staff resources available. With any ordinance, whether or not it's the face mask, the face covering ordinance recently, we're all about education at first, doing verbal warnings, written warnings if necessary before we escalate to summonses.
Thank you, Chief. I'm very glad that you mentioned that whether the call came in at 8 o'clock or et cetera, that you would take it in priority. One of the emails that we did receive was a complaint about fireworks that had upset a neighbor, and that email came to us at 9:15 p.m., which would have not been covered under this ordinance. So how would the police have managed that scenario when it is outside the 10 p.m. to 10 a.m. time frame, but people are disturbed in the neighborhood, and therefore the courtesy to other neighbors are infringed upon in this ordinance?
Well, I think with the ordinance that it gives a specific time period, say 10 to 10, if the disturbance is coming in at 9:15, we wouldn't be able to rely on the ordinance itself. We'd have to rely on state statute such as disorderly conduct or other noise ordinances, which we currently use right now. So that's how we would handle that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Keach?
Thank you, Your Honor. I just have 2 points. One, I'm just concerned that fireworks are allowed at the state level, and we're attempting to water down that ordinance, that state law, that statute by some degree. But my more important point is, based on everything I've gleaned from this whole situation, is this, in my estimation, boils down to a neighborhood dispute where fireworks are going off late at night, irritating some people. In retaliation, the other folks are lighting them off early in the morning as retaliation to the other people. And I just find it to be a very slippery slope as a council where we get involved in settling a neighborhood dispute by passing city ordinance, because I'm not sure where this ends. I don't dispute that fireworks going off at midnight aggravates somebody. I don't dispute by fireworks going off at 6 in the morning aggravates someone. But I'm not sure it's our place as a council to drill in and try to essentially figure out or solve a neighborhood dispute. And I'm not comfortable in that role.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Fennessy, question, comment?
Comment. Thank you, Your Honor. I've in the past expressed some skepticism around this ordinance and the idea of moving forward with some sort of a ban. However, I am going to support the ordinance tonight. I think the 10 to 10 is a reasonable limitation. However, I would encourage the legal department to continue to look at our noise ordinance. It seems to me that the ordinance that we may pass tonight really isn't going to get to the heart of the issue that we've seen from the comments, which is really fireworks and other conduct that's taking place outside of these hours that's causing disturbance within neighborhoods. And if our noise ordinance cannot deal with those things, then perhaps we need to revisit our noise ordinance so that it can actually be enforced.
Thank you. Councillor Grady Sexton, question?
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a question for Chief Osgood as well, and it's sort of a follow-up to Councillor Fennessy's last statement. What I'm not understanding is how our current noise ordinance is deficient in these situations, and how, if we pass this current proposal, there'll be any sort of different outcome in terms of the types of complaints and the testimony, written testimony that this council has seen regarding fireworks.
Thank you for that question. I think that the state statute under disorderly conduct is the citation that we most commonly use. And so it's really creating, I don't actually have the law in front of you, it's creating a disturbance that would disturb somebody of normal sensibilities. And so we would use that particular law. It's a violation. So if you're blowing off fireworks at 2 in the morning, that's the perfect law to cite. And so if you can always try to equate that to different periods of time during the day. So if it's really, really loud and obnoxious at 8:45 at night, and it's creating a large disturbance in the neighborhood, we could use that citation as well.
Follow-up? But in terms of our current city ordinance, Chief, is it insufficient to handle the types of complaints we're hearing? And how is it that this particular proposal is going to change the enforcement of fireworks in the city if it should be passed?
Enforcement of fireworks disturbances, noise disturbances, has been extremely evasive for us for, the better part of a decade or more. By the time we arrived at a call where the complaint is fireworks or explosives are being heard in the area, generally when we get there, we don't find any evidence of it. The fireworks have been, blown off. The people have scattered, and I don't see that changing.
Follow up again, Your Honor. Yes. So it sounds to me like we maybe just be passing something that is feel good in nature, and that if we pass it tonight, there will be no difference in terms of the enforcement of fireworks by the police department. Is that correct, Chief?
It's hard to predict. The only thing the ordinance, in my opinion, gives us leverage on is that if there is a complaint, we find somebody that's responsible, and it's between the period of 10 and 10, then we have a good citation to issue.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hatfield, comment, question?
Yeah, actually, I have a few comments, and I want to start by apologizing because I did receive several public comments that came in so late today that I don't think the council has had a chance to see them. But those are 10 different folks writing in strong support of an ordinance, many of them something even stronger than this. So I would categorize this as pretty modest. Those folks live in wards 4, 5, and 6. And as is the situation right here in my neighborhood, our lots are very small and our houses are very close together. And when this takes place, it's extremely disruptive. And I do agree that this will not solve all of the issue, and that certainly there could be nuisance fireworks that happen at other times of the day. But the testimony that folks provided in their comments that I've reviewed suggests that this will be extremely helpful, and that it is so disruptive for everyone, but particularly with people with small children, with sensitive dogs, and also veterans to have this happening after 10 p.m. Now, also in my neighborhood, there are a lot of public spaces where fireworks go off, and there are lots of complaints made. And I understand that this it's extremely hard to find who's doing that. But there are many, many cases where myself and my neighbors are watching people who are renters or homeowners doing this type of behavior after 10 p.m. And it is just extremely disruptive. So I would ask you, on behalf of my neighbors who are suffering from this, including folks on Washington Street who live feet away from a fire station and have neighbors who are shooting fireworks off during the night at or near a fire station, this really is relief that folks need down here in parts of the city where we are living much more close together. Now, do I wish we didn't have to do this? Absolutely. Do I wish that people would be a little more considerate, particularly when it's not the 4th of July? Of course I do. I wish we didn't have to pass this. But I do feel like this is very modest, and I do feel like it'll be another tool, because when the police are called to my neighborhood, a lot of times they say, we have some tools, but we don't have that one tool that makes very clear what is not allowed late at night. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pierce?
Thank you very much. Just to follow up on Councillor Hatfield and her comments, it's very clear that there is an education process, not only for citizens, but perhaps for the police and the general public, certainly, because nowhere in any ordinance is the word fireworks mentioned. Under the current noise ordinance, we regulate motorcycles, the sound of motorcycles, but I don't know, and perhaps Chief Osgood could answer this, when was the last time we issued a ticket or a disorderly conduct summons on loud motorcycles? And we hear those too. I'm not even sure we have the tool that measures the decibel levels at 5 feet away from the motorcycle and so on and so forth. So we do have ordinances on the books that probably aren't enforced. That doesn't mean we should put a new one, but if we have something on there on the books, it should be enforced. I'm not sure, Chief, when is the last time a disorderly conduct summons or citation was given for fireworks? Do you know?
I don't have that information in front of me, but I would suspect that those types of citations are very rare.
So, thank you, Chief. So I would remind folks that this is a big issue for a lot of people, and it's citywide. And I would certainly
an event like an automobile accident or something like that, that a call is really bumped fairly low down the priority list in modern policing.
So coincidentally, when we start to receive a lot of the calls regarding discharge of fireworks, typically coincides with some of our busiest times in the city for our patrol officers. So, you know, we could get a call and it could take us 20 minutes to go to that neighborhood, or it could take us 2 hours to get there. So that's one of the dilemmas that we face. You know, in enforcing it is it's gone and over by the time we get there. So that's just the reality of what's happening on the street.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Councillor Grady Sexton.
Thank you, Your Honor. I had a question for either Chief Osgood or City Solicitor Kennedy. I'm wondering if you could tell us what the current noise ordinance is in terms of the timeframes, the hours in the morning and in the evening.
Yeah, this is Brad. I would defer to Solicitor Kennedy on that. I believe it's 7 a.m. In the morning, and I'm not sure. I think it might be 7 or 8 at night.
It largely depends on the activity that you're talking about. So, for instance, lawnmowers, 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. Our waste disposal, 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. I'm just trying to think of other ones offhand, but and then of course we've got a number of exemptions that are there as well. And one of the challenges you might appreciate, and I think it's come up tonight and in other meetings, is with respect to the measurement of noise and how that works in our noise ordinance. And the legal department is currently reviewing the noise ordinance. Interestingly, that's brought up tonight, but we are reviewing that and expect to have something for the council to consider in the next couple of months. That would work with the existing fireworks ordinance just fine, and may also address it independently as well.
Follow up? I guess my question would be, you know, we get a lot of the complaints that we're hearing, as Councillor Kretovic noted, are coming in around the 9 o'clock hour, 9:30, prior to 10 p.m. So by passing this ordinance saying it's 10 p.m., when the general ordinance, noise ordinance, is in some cases earlier than that, are we, you know, hamstringing the department in any way from acting in those cases? Are people going to be just assuming that they can have excessive, you know, displays of fireworks up until 10 p.m.?
I think the fireworks ordinance is clear on its face that it's 10 p.m. to 10 a.m. that is prohibited. And then we've got specific examples of other types of prohibited conduct in our noise ordinance as well that is time-based. With respect to just general noise, it may or may not be loud. I think that that could be improved in our current noise ordinance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Keach.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just one last point, not to draw this out, but Councilor Champlin brought up a good point. I'm not sure we want to or need to pile any more responsibility on the police department at this point, because we've talked about reducing the amount of things they need to deal with, such as mental health crisis, homelessness, the rest of this. And I think this just adds to their bucket and takes away from the policing they really ought to do. I can, as a former police officer, the last call I wanted to get was a fireworks complaint, because as the chief pointed out, you get there 15 minutes later, maybe, or an hour or two later, and there's no way of telling who set the thing off. So I understand the frustration of the neighbors, but I really don't think this is a solution.
Thank you. Councillor Rice Hawkins.
Thank you. I think that I understand the points people have about, we have to be careful about not creating ordinances just to figure out, a couple of neighborhood disputes. But I do think that if you live in those neighborhoods, and this bears out with what we saw from public testimony that was submitted, this is really a quality of life issue about how they feel about their situation in Concord, and when they have to deal with this regularly and are having a hard time finding resolution within their neighborhood. And I do think it's a place for the city council to be thoughtful in some of those circumstances about making sure everyone in our community, feels comfortable in their home and in their home life. So for that reason, I do support the ordinance. I would say that I would be interested in having an amendment to allow fireworks until midnight on the 4th of July for a couple of reasons. And I know that some people who, are concerned about the late night fireworks to begin with probably won't support that. But I think in deference to the usual celebration and the way people celebrate, you're going to have fireworks, you're going to have some later at night. And I don't think we want the police station or neighborhoods to have a lot of complaints because we have a 10 p.m. cutoff and there's going to be people running them later at night. And then on the enforcement piece, I do think it's important for people have referenced the tools in the toolbox. I don't like having situations where police officers are asked to make a decision on their own without guidance. I think you get into situations of whether or not one officer feels like it's a disturbance or another one doesn't, with it, it's a he said, she said, whereas if we have an ordinance, it's very clear, everybody has it on the books and it applies equally to everyone. And so I think for those reasons, it's important to have something like this. And I'm not making the amendment motion because I don't know where this conversation is going right now. So if anyone is interested in that, then please add on, but otherwise we'll move to the vote. Thank you.
Councilor Nyan.
Thank you, Your Honor. It's interesting listening to the folks testify this evening, or even our own deliberations, that even those who are generally supportive of this ordinance have said it's probably not going to work. The chief of police said it's really not going to work. And yet we're talking about how we're going to improve the quality of life. Well, we're not going to. It's not going to change anything other than make us feel good as trying to do something. And frankly, I don't think we should be passing ordinances that we can't enforce. It's bad precedent. It's bad form. And it's unnecessary. If it was going to change something, I'd say, okay, let's do it. But it's not going to change anything. So that being said, I will not support it because it's a toothless ordinance that's not going to improve the quality of life or have the impact that everyone's hoping it will have.
Thank you. Councilor Kredovic.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm going to agree with Councilor Nyan. I'm not going to support this effort. And the reason that I'm not going to support it does go along with the enforcement piece. But the second piece is in all of the items that were sent to us in research for this action, one of them was the city of Manchester, who does ban fireworks. And their purpose, their fire department took a deep dive look at the types of fires that they had in their community that were caused by fireworks. And that was one of the recommendations that they made to support this effort. The second one was exactly what Councilor Hatfield had said. For those people that are suffering from PTSD, the fireworks going off, no matter what time of day it is far more significant than it is for middle of the night, etc. And that if we really want to make an impact at this community, we should have had support from our fire department. We should have had a more extensive look at what the impact would be in our mental health community, and in support of that effort. To just simply say from 10 p.m. to 10 a.m., I don't think it has any weight. I don't think it has any possibility of being enforced, and that I would really consider Councillor Pierce, if you really want to make an impact in the community for quality of life and et cetera, you should look at a further ban than this, and reaching out to our fire department and our police department for more support in that effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I do not see any more hands raised. Is there any councillor who hasn't raised their hand that would like to speak?
I'm sorry, could I just add one additional thing?
Yes, Councillor Hatfield.
Thank you so much. I did want to thank Chief Osgood and his officers because at least my experience in my part of Ward 4 and experience I've heard from those who wrote to me about this issue have said that they've been extremely responsive and that people really do understand that there are higher priorities, but even despite everything else that's going on, that they are very responsive and really, try to assist people. But one of the things they do point out at times is that there is not an ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, I will be supporting this ordinance. I do believe that it makes it clear what is allowed and expected of those who wish to have a fireworks display or shoot off fireworks. So I think by making it clear and what's allowed and expected does make it easier for the police department. And I think it makes it easier for our residents of Concord to know when they're thinking about doing fireworks, what is expected of them. So I will be supporting this ordinance. And seeing no other hands up, and the motion was made by Councillor Hatfield and seconded by Councillor Pierce, and the motion was to accept an ordinance. Madam Clerk, would you read agenda item number 34 and ready for the vote?
Yes, so it's an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Title I, General Code, Chapter 14, Morals and Conduct, by adding a new Article 14-6 entitled Use of Class C Consumer Permissible Fireworks.
Thank you. And if you're in favor, you'll be voting yes. And if you're against, you'll be voting no. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Bouchard.
Yes.
Councillor Champlin.
Yes.
Councillor Fennessy.
Yes.
Councillor Grady Sexton.
Yes.
Councillor Hatfield.
Yes.
Councillor Keach.
No.
Councillor Kennison.
Yes.
Councillor Kretovic.
No.
Councillor Nyan.
No.
Councillor Pierce.
Yes.
Councillor Rice Hawkins.
Yes.
Councillor Todd.
Yes.
And Councillor Werner.
Yes.
Thank you. I believe the motion passes 10 yeses, 3 noes. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
It is, yes.
Okay, motion passes. So thank you. And I see the mayor is back. Ready to trade places, Mayor?
You got it. Thank you so much. Appreciate
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so we are back to our public hearings. We have item 27A before us. Madam Clerk, if you could read 27A, please.
Yes, it's a resolution authorizing the issuance of up to $5 million in refunding bonds.
Thank you very much, Mr. Manager. Do you have anything to share?
Members of the council, based on the city's review of the outstanding general obligation bonds, our recommendation along with the city financial advisor to refinance those with a lower effective interest rate, and that will save us approximately $600,000 over the life of the bonds.
Very much. Anybody have any questions for the manager? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. Is anyone wishing to testify? I don't see any attendees wishing to raise their hand. Is there anyone calling in? Nope. Okay, with that, we'll close the public hearing. Madam Clerk, if you could read 27B, please.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to submit an application in an amount of up to $500,000 and to accept and appropriate grant proceeds of up to $500,000 in Community Development Block Grant COVID-19 pandemic funds.
Thank you very much, Mr. Manager.
Our members of the council, Mr. Walsh has a brief presentation that we need to do.
Good evening, Your Honor, members of the council. Can you hear me okay?
We can. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Okay. I'm just going to read a quick handout here that was distributed as part of your packet late today with the amended council agenda that came out. Community Development Block Grant funds are available to municipalities through the New Hampshire Community Development Finance Authority. Up to $500,000 annually is available for economic development projects. Up to $500,000 is available for public facility projects. The same amount is available for housing projects. And $500,000 is also available for emergency activities. Up to $25,000 is also available for planning study grants. All projects must directly benefit a majority of low and moderate income persons. Community Development Block Grant COVID, known as CDBG-CV funds, were authorized under the CARES Act. Up to $500,000 in CDBG-CV funding is available to municipalities. Funding is available for new services or quantifiable increase in level of service above that which has been provided for during the 12 months prior to the application, both of which must be attributable to COVID-19 pandemic. CDBG-CV funding is also available to nonprofit public service organizations as sub-applicants to municipality for activities associated with preparing for, responding to, or recovering from COVID-19 pandemic. Activities must serve primarily low and moderate income persons. The application that's before the council tonight is an application for CDBG-CV public services. This is something that's new for the state of New Hampshire. Eligible expenses for the municipality may include, but are not limited to, increased welfare costs, homeless housing costs, new services provided by the municipality, which would be Concord, attributed to the COVID-19 pandemic. Eligible nonprofit public service expenses, these would be our partners, include preparing for and responding to recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic, including but not limited to childcare services, food banks, senior services, services for persons with disabilities, legal services, resident services, youth services, transportation services, health, mental health, and substance abuse services, financial literacy, foreclosure and home buying, counseling, homeless services, education outside of school, buildings, tutoring, furniture and equipment, and other additional services, service providers. The sub-applicants for this CDBG-CV grant are the Concord Coalition to End Homelessness, the Friends Program, Family Promise of Greater Concord, and the Friendly Kitchen. CDBG-CV funds secured by the city and the associated sub-applicants shall be allocated and deployed as follows. The city itself is seeking $53,486 to support our Human Services Department for basically emergency one-time rental payments, utility assistance, medical and prescription services, food assistance, and similar related assistance. Concord Coalition to End Homelessness is looking for $50,385 for hotel rooms, which they intend to rent to support this homelessness, as well as staffing for hotel spaces. The coalition is also seeking an additional $128,520 to support additional shelter space, staffing, cleaning, and tech associated therewith. Family Promise of Greater Concord is seeking $43,200 for essentially hotel rooms for homeless people. These are all related to impacts on the cold weather shelter and existing shelters due to social distancing and the need to provide more space for the homeless population. Friendly Kitchen is seeking $115,810 to support expanded hours at their kitchen facility on South Commercial Street, including additional expenses for cleaning, staffing, and air purification. The Friends Program is seeking $37,035 for its youth literacy program. which will assist students with literacy issues since they are no longer in classrooms by and large. The same organization, the Friends program, is looking for another $16,464 to support senior shopping, which is a program that basically does grocery shopping for vulnerable seniors who can't go up because of health concerns. They are also seeking an additional $30,100 for hotel rooms, again, to support the homeless population. And on top of all of this, there will be another $25,000 sought by the city to cover administrative fees, which are primarily the payment of our consultant, Donna Lane. All this adds up to $500,000. Be happy to answer any questions.
Was any questions for Mr. Walsh? Seeing none, thank you very much. Are we ready to open the public hearing? We are. Welcome to the public hearing. Anyone wish to testify? I have one individual who was an attendee. If you could let in Connor Spurn, that'd be great. Thank you for allowing him in, or allowing them in. Welcome. Good evening.
Hi. Yes. Thank you. My name is Connor Spurn. I'm the development director for the Friends program. I am just speaking in support of all three of our proposals. We are supporting all three of the most vulnerable and most affected parties, I would say, for COVID-19, specifically with seniors, youth, and homeless services. That is all. I'm just speaking my support of it.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions? Seeing that, appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us tonight and appreciate your patience. Is there anyone else wishing to testify? Ellen Grohl, please, if you could let us roll in the meeting. Welcome. Good
Hi.
evening.
Hi, this is Ellen Groh, Director at the Concord Coalition to End Homelessness. Just letting you know that I'm available. Connor and I are both available if you have any questions about any of this, and thank you for your consideration of it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you joining us. Seeing no questions. Thank you again. Is there anyone else wishing to testify? We have Curbison. Curbison? Could you let them in the meeting, please? We have somebody who wanted to testify. Could you let them in the meeting, please?
They're in.
It appears to me that they, oh, okay. Hey, welcome. Sorry. Welcome. What would you like to share with us this evening? Hello?
Okay. Are you speaking to Leanne?
Yeah, but I'm not getting anything.
Her audio connection is gone.
Okay. Perhaps you could try it back. Okay. All right. Is there anyone else? Leanne, are you there? No. Okay. Is there anyone else? Mr. Manager, do you have anybody on the phone?
No, sir.
Okay. At this time, we'll close the public hearing. Madam Clerk, if you read the next item, please.
Yes, it's a resolution appropriating the sum of $250,000 for the purpose of purchasing a dump truck and attachments for use at the municipal airport, CIP number 77, and accepting the sum of $250,000 in grant funds from the Federal Aviation Administration administered through the State of New Hampshire Department of Transportation.
Thank you very much. Mr. Manager.
Your Honor, members of the council, the city applied for a grant in the spring of 2020 to New Hampshire Department of Transportation to purchase a dump truck and plow attachments. The requested funding was for up to $250,000. 90% would be the federal share, 5% state share, and 5% city share. we've been notified through the 2020 Federal CARES Act Group 1 funding that the entire 100% of the cost has been funded by the federal government, so would like to accept all $250,000 for this, and there will be no city share, so there'll be savings of the city of $12,500. Be glad to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions for the manager? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone who wishes to testify at this time? Is there anyone on the phone, Mr. Manager?
No, sir.
Okay, at this time, we'll close the public hearing. Madam Clerk, item 27D, please.
It's a resolution appropriating the sum of $64,188 for the annual roadway surface improvements project, CIP number 78, and accepting the sum of $64,188 in resident granite curb cost sharing program contributions for this purpose.
Thank you very much, Mr. Manager.
Members of the council, the payments for the granite curbing have been deposited into a revenue account and are not available to be applied to future paving expenses. The resolution they have in front of you is intended to identify that money that has been received and appropriate it to offset amount that can be used for paving in the future. Glad to answer any questions.
Any question for the manager? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. Is anyone wishing to testify on this item? Seeing no one wishing to testify, as attendees, is there anyone on the phone?
No, sir.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Madam Clerk, item 27E, please.
It's a resolution appropriating the sum of $21,685 for law enforcement related programs and accepting the sum of $21,685 in unmatched grant funds from the United States Department of Justice Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Program.
Mr. Manager.
Under members of the council, I'll just add that the department will share these funds with the County of Merrimack. The city has 10,843, and the county will receive 10,842.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Manager? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone who wishes to testify? Seeing no attendees wishing to testify, Mr. Manager is on the phone.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Madam Clerk, item 27F, please.
It's a resolution appropriating the sum of $5,500 for the procurement of outside services to develop a detailed cost estimate of an existing conceptual design for arena addition and authorizing the use of the arena fund balance for this purpose.
Mr. Manager.
Honor members of the council, is a housekeeping item. You previously approved these dollars. However, they expired at the end of the fiscal year because of the COVID situation. We couldn't get the project done. So essentially, you're reappropriating the same dollars and it'll only be spent once. That answer any questions.
Any questions for the manager? Okay, seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. Any attendees wishing to testify? Seeing no hands raised, is there anyone on the phone, Mr. Manager?
No, sir.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing. And Madam Clerk, if you read 27H, please.
Yes, it's a resolution appropriating the sum of $20,000 to fund an assessment of redevelopment scenarios for the former gas holder house, authorizing the use of $15,500 from the Economic Development Reserve as transfer in, and accepting the sum of $4,500 as a donation from the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Manager.
Nothing to add, Your Honor.
Thank you. At this time, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to testify? We have Jennifer Goodman, if you could bring her in. Welcome, good evening.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Goodman, the Executive Director of the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance. Really appreciate the city's and City Council's interest in this issue, this complicated project, and I'm here in case you have any questions. Certainly hope you'll support this resolution.
Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Goodman? Seeing none, thank you very much for taking time and your patience this evening. Anyone else? Councilor Fennessy, you have your hand raised. Do you want to wait? Would you wait till the deliberations, or do you have a question for Ms. Goodman?
I actually have a question for the city manager.
Oh, why don't we wait till the deliberations? Right now, we're in the public hearing, so we can just wait. Anyone else wishing to speak during the public hearing? Anyone on the phone, Mr. Manager?
No, sir.
Okay, with that, we'll close the public hearing. That takes us to our action phase. Madam Clerk, item 28, please.
It's a resolution authorizing the issuance of up to $5 million in refunding bonds.
Thank you very much. Do we have a motion?
Move approval.
Motion made and seconded to approve this item. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, ready for the vote? Madam Clerk, will you call the roll call, please?
Yes, Councilor Bouchard.
Yes.
Mayor Boulay.
Yes.
Councilor Champlin.
Yes.
Councilor Fennessy.
Yes.
Councilor Grady Sexton.
Yes.
Councilor Hatfield.
Yes.
Councilor Keach.
Yes.
Councilor Kennison.
Yes.
Councilor Kretovic.
Yes.
Councilor Nyan.
Yes.
Councilor Pierce.
Yes.
Councilor Rice Hawkins.
Yes.
Councilor Todd.
Yes.
And Councilor Werner.
Yes.
Have received the necessary 2/3. The motion is approved. Madam Clerk, item 29, please.
It's a resolution authorizing the city manager to submit an application in an amount of up to $500,000 and to accept and appropriate grant proceeds of up to $500,000 in Community Development Block Grant COVID-19 pandemic funds.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made, second to approve this item. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, ready for the vote? Madam Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Councilor Bouchard.
Yes.
Mayor Boulay.
Yes.
Councilor Champlin.
Yes.
Councilor Fennessy.
Yes.
Councilor Grady Sexton.
Yes.
Councilor Hatfield.
Yes.
Councilor Keach.
Yes.
Councilor Kennison.
Yes.
Councilor Kretovic.
Yes.
Councilor Nyan.
Yes.
Councilor Pierce.
Yes.
Councilor Rice Hawkins.
Yes.
Councilor Todd.
Yes.
And Councilor Werner.
Yes.
I received the necessary 2/3. The motion is adopted. Madam Clerk, item 30, please.
It's a resolution appropriating the sum of $250,000 for the purpose of purchasing a dump truck and attachments for use at the municipal airport, CIP number 77, and accepting the sum of $250,000 in grant funds from the Federal Aviation Administration, administered through the State of New Hampshire Department of Transportation.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve this item. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Councilor Bouchard.
Yes.
Mayor Boulay.
Yes.
Councilor Champlin.
Yes.
Councilor Fennessy.
Yes.
Councilor Grady Sexton.
Yes.
Councilor Hatfield.
Yes.
Councilor Keach.
Yes.
Councilor Kennison.
Yes.
Councilor Kretovic.
Yes.
Councilor Nyan.
Yes.
Councilor Pierce.
Yes.
Councilor Rice Hawkins.
Yes.
Councilor Todd.
Yes.
And Councilor Werner.
Yes.
Having received necessary 2/3, the motion is adopted. Madam Clerk, item 31, please.
It's a resolution appropriating the sum of $64,188 for the annual roadway surface improvements project, CIP number 78, and accepting the sum of $64,188 in resident granite curb cost sharing program contributions.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made, second to approve this item. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Councilor Bouchard.
Yes.
Mayor Boulay.
Yes.
Councilor Champlin.
Yes.
Councilor Fennessy.
Yes.
Councilor Grady Sexton.
Yes.
Councilor Hatfield.
Yes.
Councilor Keach.
Yes.
Councilor Kennison.
Yes.
Councilor Kretovic.
Yes.
Councilor Nyan.
Yes.
Councilor Pierce.
Yes.
Councilor Rice Hawkins.
Yes.
Councilor Todd.
Yes.
And Councilor Werner.
Yes.
Thank you. We have received necessary 2/3. The motion is adopted. Madam Clerk, item 32, please.
It's a resolution appropriating the sum of $21,685 for law enforcement related programs and accepting the sum of $21,685 in unmatched grant funds from the United States Department of Justice.
Thank you.
Move approval.
Second. Motion made and seconded to approve this item. Is there any discussion? Council Rice Hawkins.
Thank you. The police chief was kind in responding to a request I had just about what the actual purchases would be for these items. I'd like to ask if we could have that noted in the minutes or posted somewhere, because I know I got some requests about that as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything further? Okay, are we ready for the vote? Madam Clerk, you can call the roll, please.
Councillor Bouchard,
Yes.
Mayor Boulay,
Yes.
Councillor Champlin,
Yes.
Councillor Fennessy,
Yes.
Councillor Grady Sexton,
Yes.
Councillor Hatfield,
Yes.
Councillor Keach,
Yes.
Councillor Kennison,
Yes.
Councillor Kretovic,
Yes.
Councillor Nyan,
Yes.
Councillor Pierce,
Yes.
Councillor Rice Hawkins,
Yes.
Councillor Todd,
Yes.
and Councillor Warner.
Yes.
I have received the necessary 2/3. The motion is adopted. Madam Clerk, item 33, please.
It's a resolution appropriating the sum of $5,500 for the procurement of outside services to develop a detailed cost estimate of an existing conceptual design for an arena addition and authorizing the use of arena fund balance for this purpose.
Move approval.
Second. Thank you very much. Motion made and seconded to approve this item. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, you call the roll, please.
Councillor Bouchard,
Yes.
Mayor Boulay,
Yes.
Councillor Champlin,
Yes.
Councillor Fennessy,
Yes.
Councillor Grady Sexton,
Yes.
Councillor Hatfield,
Yes.
Councillor Keach,
Yes.
Councillor Kennison,
Yes.
Councillor Kretovic,
Yes.
Councillor Nyan,
Yes.
Councillor Pierce,
Yes.
Councillor Rice Hawkins,
Yes.
Councillor Todd,
Yes.
and Councillor Warner.
Yes.
I've received the necessary 2/3. Motion is adopted. Madam Clerk, item 35, please.
It's a resolution appropriating the sum of $20,000 to fund an assessment of redevelopment scenarios for the former gas holder house, authorizing the use of $15,500 from the Economic Development Reserve as a transfer in, and accepting the sum of $4,500 as a donation from the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance.
Move approval.
Second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve this item. Is there any discussion? And I would like to recognize Councilor Fennessy.
So I'd like to ask a question of the city manager. And looking at the report, it doesn't specify the type of professional that we're anticipating is going to be preparing this report. Do we have a type of professional that we're anticipating at this point?
Councilor, I'm going to actually refer this to Councilor Champlin as the chairman of the committee. I think he might be best suited to answer this question.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I also, if it's appropriate, would ask that we also allow Ms. Goodman from the Preservation Alliance to refer to this as well. It's a great question, Councilor Fennessy, and thanks for asking it. We're essentially looking for a consultancy or a consultant who has experience in looking at historic structures like this and prospective redevelopment or reuse or stabilization programs, and has experience in making appropriate recommendations. So it would be somebody who specialized in this kind of structure, not necessarily the gas holder building and the gas holder itself, but specifically historic structures, and then had the capability to assemble a group of experts who could provide the appropriate expertise to make viable recommendations. And I would defer to Ms. Goodman to make any comments that she thinks might be appropriate as well.
Okay. Councilor, actually, we're in the voting mode, so I'm going to refrain from that, but I'm going to recognize Councilor Kritovic.
Thank you, Your Honor. One of the items that came up at our meeting was very specific to the consultant that might be selected for this project. So I'm very glad you asked that question, Councilor Fennessy. There is a time crunch that we have as a committee to try and get some answers and some direction to return back to the council. And one of the items that is a sticking point here is how do we get a consultant on board to help us when we have this time crunch. Essentially, Liberty Utilities is hoping to have an answer from the council by December 31st, which is, of course, the end of this year. And in this effort, in starting by looking at this vote, and then what it takes to find a consultant in the meantime, we were hoping to modify the proposal that's here to accept the recommendation for the $20,000 on the fund and the grant that goes along with that from the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance, but also to amend it to authorize the city manager to review any of the proposals that come forward for his election in that contract for the statement of work that would go along with it, so that this item can come back to the council in full at a later time and we can proceed forward with that expedited review.
Councilor Fennessy, did that answer your question?
I think it actually raises a number of other questions. So if you would indulge me, Councilor Kretovic, if I'm understanding what you just said, the committee is still trying to determine the type of professional that they would like to retain. Is that correct?
I think the type of professional needs to be someone, as Councilor Champlin had pointed out, has expertise with regards to historic preservation. For our purposes, where the report that came from Liberty Utilities fell short is some of the other costs that may be associated with whether we memorialize the building, making it just a sealed structure, what other uses on the property may be available to us, et cetera. And I think that having someone with a background not only in historic preservation, but in redevelopment of historic preservation properties is important. Ms. Goodman has offered a list of individuals that might be relevant to that, but no one has been asked to put together a statement of work at this point in time. We did also hear from a developer at this meeting that suggested someone with that development aspect might be more appropriate. And we thought, given the city's knowledge and expertise in reviewing statement of works and what would be in the best interest of the city, having the city review those proposals was important.
Thank you. Councilor Fennessy, do you have another question?
I do not have a further question. I do have a comment, and perhaps this is more of a question for the chair of the committee. Is there an expectation, if you'll take my question, Councilor Chamberlain, is there an expectation that the committee will be considering sort of the legal and liability aspects with any proposed redevelopment of the site?
Councilor Chamberlain.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Councilor Fennessy, thank you for the question. Certainly, the legal and liability considerations will be part of any discussion and any report that we receive. If I may make some clarifications, Your Honor?
Please.
Thank you. The committee, I believe that given the amount of money that we're talking about here, it does not require, other than the approval of the funds, it does not require a second vote by the council in order for the city administration to expend those funds. We're planning on the committee to meet this week, probably on Wednesday, in order to review the recommendation from the Preservation Alliance on a consultant and to vote on that recommendation, after which we hope that we will be meeting next week with the consultant who's been approved in order to begin our work, and also perhaps bring in some other folks who can add their expertise and comment to our work. But that's essentially the timeline. Approve a consultant this week. And we're very close to having a consultant identified with the prospective work, and then meet with the consultant in a public meeting next week.
Thank you. Councilor Kretovic.
I'm still having mouse problems, and so I couldn't unmute. Councilor Fennessy, was your question in regards to the liability of potential contaminations at the site?
Yes, that's part of it.
Okay. What we heard from Liberty Utilities is that regardless of what happens with this site, they do not get to pass along the liabilities and the associated repercussions of a contaminated site. They own it. They own it in perpetuity. And so they will be concerned about what happens at the site, particularly if there's excavation at the site, but it's theirs.
If I can just a quick follow-up in response. I'm sure that's Liberty's position, and I guess I would suggest that the committee should probably consult our own legal department to confirm whether that's an accurate characterization of potential liability.
Anyone else? Councilor Hatfield.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to thank the committee for the work you've done and the work that's ahead. It's a big lift in a short period of time, and I certainly appreciate it. And if there's anything I can do to help, please let me know.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll just ask you to all please support this. I think it's important, and it's important that we move quickly. So I appreciate the committee getting together this week and next week. So a lot ahead, as people have said, and let's keep the ball moving here. Are we ready for? We do have a motion before us. Are we ready for the question? We do. We are. So, Madam Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Councillor Bouchard. Councillor Bouchard.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Boulay.
Yes.
Councillor Champlin.
Yes.
Councillor Fennessy.
No.
Councillor Grady Sexton.
Yes.
Councillor Hatfield.
Yes.
Councillor Keach.
Yes.
Councillor Kennison.
Yes.
Councillor Kretovic.
Yes.
Councillor Nyan.
Yes.
Councillor Pierce.
Yes.
Councillor Rice Hawkins.
Yes.
Councillor Todd.
Yes.
And Councillor Werner.
Yes.
And with that, motions, have we received necessary 2/3? The motion is adopted. That takes us to item 36. You all have been going for 2 hours. Does anybody need a 2-minute break? Let's take a 2-minute recess. Okay, if we could head back towards the meeting, that'd be great. Council Nye, any there? Council Fennessy? Council Warner? Council Warner, Council Nyan, Council Grady Sexton. Okay, we're back. Okay, that takes us, Madam Clerk, to item 36, please.
It's a discussion of the Hoyt Road, Whitney Road proposed improvements and possible funding mechanisms.
Thank you very much, Mr. Manager.
Good evening, Your Honor, members of council. A couple of months ago, the council approved a contract for design and engineering of the Whitney Road, Hoyt Road intersection and ancillary improvements. At the time when it was approved, we informed council that we would come back to you with the plan and with the project budget at 30% completion, and that's where we are this evening. So I would like to have David Cedarholm, our city engineer, just run through the plan for your review this evening.
Please, thank you. So LeBron, could you let him in, please?
Okay to bring Mr. Cedarholm in?
That's what, yes, please.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? This is David Cedarholm.
Good evening, welcome.
Thank you, Your Honor, and members of the City Council. I'm going to share my screen and quickly give you a rundown of the important elements of the project. Can everyone see the plan before you?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to zoom in here. Before I get into the real details, I first wanted to say that before we settled on a roundabout at this intersection, we did some pretty significant studies and also looked at a signaled intersection. And the signaled intersection would have worked at this location. However, it would have been a 6-lane intersection with 2 turning lanes, as well as 2 through lanes and right turn lanes. And it was determined that the roundabout would actually move traffic just as well, and also be traffic calming. It would slow the traffic down. So instead of having vehicles running through a green light at 40 to 50 miles an hour, you'd actually have vehicles running through a roundabout at much calmer speeds. So this is considered a 2-lane hybrid roundabout. And by that, I mean there are 2 lanes running through east and west for the through traffic on Hoyt Road. And there's actually a single lane to carry the left turn lanes for westbound traffic down into a single exit into Whitney Road. And similarly for eastbound traffic, there's a single lane that runs 3/4 way around about to enter onto Boyce Road. So that will efficiently move traffic both east and west, as well as peel off the traffic calmly into both Hoyt and Boyce Road. Around the perimeter of the roundabout, you'll see there are pedestrian accommodations, pedestrian and bicycle accommodations. So bicycles could have the choice of running with traffic through the lanes. However, if they're not comfortable with that, as well as so bicycles and pedestrians can take these crosswalks and the side paths to get through. We have 1 crosswalk across Hoyt on the west side of the roundabout, which will actually be will have a lighted signal so pedestrians can actually stop traffic to safely go across Hoyt. And there is, you can see there's a drainage system with a detention basin up here to the northwest corner. To the west of the roundabout, There is a left turn lane, a dedicated left turn lane, and a left turn pocket here for vehicles turning left onto Hannah Dustin. There will actually be an island here, and this island is shaped to prevent left turns out of Hannah Dustin. So if somebody wants to leave Hannah Dustin and head west on Hoyt, they will have to just take a right turn and go around the roundabout and then head west. So that will actually improve the safety of some of the issues that we currently experience at Hannah Dustin. Want to head to the east over here towards the exit 17 intersection with 93. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And right now we have a very fast running southbound entrance onto 93. This is the entrance right here. So this is going to go away, and the entrance onto 93 is actually being moved farther east towards the current southbound entrance for westbound traffic. And there's two advantages to this. It will actually slow down the traffic entering onto this on-ramp, so that the vehicles coming from the west and vehicles coming to the east will merge at a similar speed. But the big reason for doing this is it adds to the length of this distance, so vehicles coming out of the roundabout will have plenty of time to merge and enter the right lane in order to get onto the southbound on-ramp. And the last element I'd like to describe here is a small roundabout on Whitney, which occurs here at the Concord Crossing entrance onto Whitney. And this is the proposed entrance for the Market Basket development that is proposed to the east. This roundabout will aid to allow traffic to safely go coming in and out of the Market Basket development, and also prevent conflicts with trucks coming from the Concord Co-op and trucks and vehicles entering and exiting out of Concord Crossing. And lastly, I want to say, so there is a pedestrian connection from Hannah Dustin. So currently the sidewalk from the Boscawen end of this area, there's a sidewalk that comes and ends here at Hannah Dustin. So this project actually continues the sidewalk down along the south side of Hoyt Road and carries it down into Whitney to a crosswalk here, so pedestrians can safely enter the Market Basket development. I think that is about it.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for Mrs. Cito? Okay. So, Mr. Bahia, I think if you want to bring everybody back, I think the question before us is, we've gone forth at this point with the 30% of the design. The question is now, do you want to continue with the rest of the design? Is that how you see this?
Yes, Your Honor. And actually, if I could just also provide the council with the project budget.
Please.
Just share my screen. So as city engineer Cedarholm outlined, he outlined the project is broken out into certain elements. So as you see before you here, the main roundabout at the hybrid at Hoyt and Whitney Road has a cost projected at 1.55 million. The Whitney Road, I should say, actually site interest roundabout is projected at 690,000. And the Hannah Dustin left turn lane and median work is about 460,000. The exit 17 on-ramp is projected to be 750,000, and then various pedestrian improvements distributed throughout the project are calculated to be around 320,000. If you add on the costs for administration, engineering, inspection, and testing, another 210, you get a cost of roughly, I'm going to round up to about $4 million. It's also important to note that this is just the 30% cost, which should be you should have a quite good level of confidence. But again, we're still refining some numbers. We're still in discussions with the development partners in this project, as well as with the DOT, so things may change here and there. And the question, as you stated just a minute ago, Your Honor, was we did say we bring this to you now at 30% and to check in and see if you still would like to pursue the completion of this design, which I think will have some value regardless of whatever happens with the private development here.
Thank you very much. Do we have anyone with any questions? We do. Councilor Kretovic.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Cedarholm, I'm hoping that you can help me get a sense of scale for these roundabouts. There is one in the neighborhood up by Bosquen that was put in by the state. It has some hay and a couple of scarecrows and a pumpkin in it right now, but typically it's just a pile of gravel. But scale-wise, as far as what the size of that roundabout is compared to the two that we're looking at on this design, if you could help me get a sense of that, I would really appreciate it.
Sure. The roundabout that's being proposed is larger than the roundabout in Bosquen. If you're familiar with the two-lane roundabout in Lee, New Hampshire, it is the same diameter as that roundabout. It's 200 feet in diameter. It's also a similar diameter as a two-lane roundabout that's in Keene today. Does that answer your question?
It does. And the smaller one that's there on Whitney Road?
That is actually similar in diameter as the exit 16 roundabout we have, where Mountain Road and East Side Drive come together.
Great. Thank you very much.
Sure. Councilor Pierce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure if this is for Mr. Cedarholm or Mr. Baea, but on the cost sheet, I'm focusing on the $750,000 for the ramp to 93 South. Is that something that the state would participate in? And if not, why?
Excellent question, Councilor Pierce. The state, from the very first time we've had discussions with them, which goes back now several years, has indicated to us that they have no intention whatsoever of doing any work in this particular area. And the on-ramp, in fact, they've identified, at least informally, as being something they'd like to see improved, but I'm not sure if it's on any 10-year plan that they have. I can tell you for a fact that the roundabout, the intersection improvement at Hoyt and Whitney, is definitely not on a 10-year plan. The city has tried, the city council has advocated for this in the past for many years to have that put on. The state feels that it's really just an effort to stimulate economic development. It's not necessary for the safety and throughput of their road, which is Hoyt Road. And because of that, they won't participate. The on-ramp work is required only in this instance because it's triggered by the work at the roundabout. The roundabout is so close to this on-ramp that it is you can't physically build it without making some changes to the on-ramp onto 93.
Follow up. So I know this is just a 30% engineering. Is there a way to look at that we could make changes in that on-ramp and still have the roundabout in place without spending $750,000? Or is this just the only design available?
I don't really think it's going to make a dramatic difference. In discussions with the state, there might be some minor changes to how that roundabout is laid out in that proposal that was presented to you this evening. But I think ultimately you're talking about, some major road work and removing some of the existing pavement. So we can take a look at it. I'm just not sure that it'll really be a significant cost difference.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Hatfield.
Thank you. Mr. Baea, so it's the cost estimate was roughly $4 million. Is that right?
That is correct. That does not include the design and engineering, which were roughly $456,000.
So the total is about $4.5 million.
That is correct.
The pedestrian and bicycle features, you may know that the Razios presented to the Energy and Environment Committee and also spoke with TPAC, and I think that was really helpful for them to get that input. Can you just touch on, how you think they've this design has incorporated trying to make sure that this roundabout, it seems to me it would be different in that it would be accessible to folks outside of cars.
That is correct, Councilor. This actually was a top priority for the engineers working on this project, because we told them that this is something the community really wanted and the council also advocated for. So the roadway itself will have shoulders wide enough, obviously, to support cycling. As the city engineer noted, there will be a sidewalk extension to pick up where the sidewalk ends today at Hannah Dustin Drive and bring it through this intersection and down Whitney Road as well. In addition, pedestrians will have a 10-foot wide path that was noted around the hybrid roundabout that will project all around basically all 4 points of the roundabout. And then the cyclists, if you are an adept cyclist and you want to stay within the actual travelway, vehicular travelway, you obviously can do that. Most people are probably not inclined to do that just because it's a little uncomfortable. So to accommodate those sort of amateur cyclists, we are creating those 10-foot wide paths. Will also be basically multi-use trails, if you will, short little trails on each corner of the roundabout to help folks maneuver through that intersection much more comfortably. And then going down Whitney Road, as the engineer noted, we have got a 10-foot wide path going down the west side of Whitney Road. And then we'll cross over into the site plan, what will be the site, into the site for the market basket. And I'm hoping that I've yet to see the final plan for the market basket, but I understand that they're incorporating some pedestrian improvements as well as a result of some of the input that they've received.
Thank you. Follow up, Your Honor?
Please.
So is it staff's view that that we should proceed continuing with the design, and that if worst case scenario, this particular current project doesn't move forward, that we'd be able to use that for this location in the future?
I think that's the case. Ultimately, if whatever develops on this corridor, it will likely require improvements to this intersection, the Hoyt and Whitney Road intersection. So whether it be for this particular development with a market basket or something else literally further down the road, you're going to have to do this. And this particular engineered plan, I think, can stand the test of time and will be easily converted to whatever you want to do in the future. I can't speak necessarily to all of the things on Whitney Road that are proposed, because some of them were kind of site specific to the market basket, but I think the bulk of the plan will very much be usable.
Thank you.
Councilor Kennison.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think this is a wonderful project that we should support, but in previous projects, we've had cost sharing with the owners, developers, and so on. And for me, that would be an extremely important part of this project, as it's so costly. Just wanted to state that and really push for getting as much cost sharing as possible.
Thank you. Anyone else? Comments, questions? So back to the original question, is this something we're going to continue to go forth with in the design? Councilor Kretovic.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think at this stage, given what we've already invested and the huge opportunity that sits here at Exit 17, that we should continue to go forward with the design. It doesn't commit a nearly $4 million to the improvements at this time, but I think it will give us a better perspective on what will actually be happening rather than on conceptually. And Pennacook is hoping for that tax relief in this area to the taxpayers, and I think it just makes sense at this time to make this investment to see a further design of this area. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Champ.
Thank you, Your Honor. I support moving forward from the 30% point onwards to 100%. I think that, the expansion or the continuation of Whitney Road in the future is on our horizon, maybe not in the immediate future, but certainly down the road at some point. And it sounds as if a complete plan will have usefulness when we get to that point, regardless of what happens with the development at Exit 17. I agree with Councillor Kennison that cost sharing is preferred and highly desirable. The town of Canterbury is going to benefit from these changes, and the development at Exit 17. The grocery store is going to benefit, and the developer is going to benefit from all of these changes. And so I would very much like to see an element of cost sharing. But above all, I think it's important for this development to move forward in order to relieve and to expand the tax base for the taxpayers who live within the Merrimack Valley School District. Thanks, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Councillor Champlin took much of what I was going to say, so I'll just say I strongly support moving forward with the design at this point for the reasons stated by Councillor Champlin.
Thank you. Councillor Todd.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, I also agree with Councillor Champlin's comments, of course, and I just want to add that I think that folks in Pennacook have also been asking me. I do hear two very common themes through the correspondence that I get from folks who want to know what stage this project is at. And one of them is, they really want the supermarket, they want the amenities, they want to be able to have that there. I think this location is a great spot for all that. And the other one is the tax concerns related to the being in the Merrimack Valley School District. So without repeating too much of what my colleagues said, I just want to support going forward with this at this point for those reasons. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hatfield.
Just a quick question, hopefully for Mr. Baea. What's the timeline for completing this phase?
Councillor, when you mentioned the phase, are you mentioning just the design portion?
Yes.
Let me actually defer to City Engineer Cedarholm because he may have more up-to-date information.
The design phase is due to be completed in December or January, so that we can get final approval from DOT and put this out to bid in preparation for the start of construction in spring of 2021.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was good. Anyone else? Okay. I think it would probably be helpful to give direction to the administration. So I would entertain a motion to move forward with the continuation of the design.
So moved.
Make that, yeah, second.
Okay, the motion is made by Councilor Grady Sexton, seconded by Councilor Todd. Madam Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Yes. Councillor Bouchard.
Yes.
Mayor Boulay.
Yes.
Councillor Champlin.
Yes.
Councillor Fennessy.
Yes.
Councillor Grady Sexton.
Yes.
Councillor Hatfield.
Yes.
Councillor Keach.
Yes.
Kennison.
Yes.
Bless you. Councillor Kretovic.
Yes.
Councillor Nyan.
Yes.
Councillor Pierce.
Yes.
Councillor Rice Hawkins.
Yes.
Councillor Todd.
Yes.
And Councillor Werner.
Yes.
And with that, the motion is adopted. Okay, we have no new business. I don't believe any unfinished business is coming off the table. Takes us to comments by members of the council or the manager. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share? Council Champlin.
Thank you, Your Honor. Actually, I have a quick question for the manager. I'm seeing a lot of queries and questions and confusion over that most important holiday, Halloween, in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. I read this morning in this morning's Monitor that the Portsmouth committee responsible for their Halloween parade has decided to defer this year. But my understanding is that the city doesn't take a isn't directly involved in setting Halloween observances. So I just wanted to ask for clarification on that.
Yes, the city council has made a determination that you do not set the date or the time of Halloween. And that has been your official position for many, many years now. So we do not tell people of when to go trick-or-treating, when not to go trick-or-treating, and what days or times to do that. That's all based on tradition.
Honor, follow up, Your Honor?
Sure.
So essentially, whether or not to trick or treat, as of this point, whether or not to trick or treat, whether or not to have candy available is entirely up to individual discretion in the city?
That's correct. It's a personal decision.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilor Fennessy.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to say a quick thank you to the city clerk, her staff, and all the people, the moderators, the clerks, and everybody else who participated this past Tuesday in helping us run the primary election. I thought they did a great job. I think things went very well, at least in Ward 5 where I was for the entire day. And there's going to be a lot more work to be done in November. I think we got a pretty good plan in place. The clerk did a great job, and I hope all the volunteers that came out to help out on Tuesday will find some more friends to help us out in November.
Thank you. Council 9.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to reference the city has an upcoming event here in a couple weeks, the weekend of September 26th. Capital Arts Fest is proceeding forward. Promises to be a great event. It'll be properly social distance, but for those of you who have visited the annual League of New Hampshire Craftsmen Fair at Mount Sunapee, which did not occur, this is a great opportunity to attend an event in person and purchase some fine craft. There's also going to be some co-sponsored events by the Capital Arts Center and some bands and many other things. So we hope many people join me and visit the city that weekend.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? I'll just simply put an exclamation point on Council 9's. I very much appreciate you bringing that up. This is going to be an important trial run, I think, for the league and for the city, and how we handle something like this and still be and all be safe. So I think it's going to be a great event. Council 9 is not going to be one of the artists who's there, but you know, we'll still, if he draws that painting, we'll still want to buy it. So. And I do want to also just add a little bit to what Councilor Fennessy said. I think that Tuesday did come off without a hitch for the most part. There's always some little things here and there, but the clerk's office did an absolutely outstanding job. And to see that you can get an appreciation for that, it's so much more than just that day on a Tuesday. 2 years ago, for absentee ballots, the city of Concord had about 350 people vote by absentee. This past Tuesday, we had 3,900 people who requested absentee ballots, with almost 3,500 people returning them. So the amount of labor and time and effort that has to go into getting those, get ballots in and getting the ballots out, making sure that they're distributed, they're properly recorded. It's a big deal, because one of the last things we ever want to happen is for an election to go sideways. So I think that it's the going into the November election, we're all going to have to be really careful to make sure that we give the support we need to for the clerk's office, because it's going to be just a tremendous amount of folks who I think will be sending in for absentee. And as the clerk reminds me most every day now, if you want to vote by absentee for general election, it is strongly encouraged you get those requests in as soon as you possibly can, or vote early is fine. So feel free to do that. And Madam Clerk, if I missed anything there, then or I messed it up, then feel free to chime in.
You did not. It was perfect. And thank you for the kind words. It is a great city team that I'm glad to be part of.
Excellent. Okay, we do. Ms. Manager, do you have anything?
No, sir.
Wonderful. Okay, we do have one item for suspense. If we could get a motion to suspend the rules to take up suspense 1.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to suspend the rules to take up suspense 1. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Councillor Bouchard,
Yes.
Mayor Boulay,
Yes.
Councillor Champlin,
Yes.
Councillor Fennessy,
Yes.
Councillor Grady Sexton,
Yes.
Councillor Hatfield,
Yes.
Councillor Keach,
Yes.
Councillor Kennison,
Yes.
Councillor Kretovic,
Yes.
Councillor Nyan,
Yes.
Councillor Pierce,
Yes.
Councillor Rice Hawkins,
Yes.
Councillor Todd,
Yes.
and Councillor Werner.
Yes.
And the motion is adopted. Madam Clerk, if you could read item suspense 1, please.
It's a resolution authorizing the city clerk to certify the city of Concord's qualified expenses for carrying out the September 8th state primary and upcoming November 3rd general election, to apply for reimbursement of those expenses in accordance with the CARES Act funding available for elections.
Thank you very much. Can we get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made, seconded to authorize a resolution. Any questions? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Councillor Bouchard,
Yes.
Mayor Boulay,
Yes.
Councillor Champlin,
Yes.
Councillor Fennessy,
Yes.
Councillor Grady Sexton,
Yes.
Councillor Hatfield,
Yes.
Councillor Keach,
Yes.
Councillor Kennison,
Yes.
Councillor Kretovic,
Yes.
Councillor Nyan,
Yes.
Councillor Pierce,
Yes.
Councillor Rice Hawkins,
Yes.
Councillor Todd,
Yes.
and Councillor Werner.
Yes.
And with that, the motion is adopted. Before we get to the adjournment motion, is there anything else anybody has before we do adjourn? Ms. Manager, do you have anything else? All right. We'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Councillor Bouchard,
Yes.
Mayor Boulay,
Yes.
Councillor Champlin,
Yes.
Councillor Fennessy,
C.
Councillor Grady Sexton,
Yes.
Councillor Hatfield,
Yes.
Councillor Keach,
Yes.
Councillor Kennison,
Yes.
Councillor Kretovic,
Yes.
Councillor Nyan,
Yes.
Councillor Pierce,
Yes.
Councillor Rice Hawkins, Councillor Todd,
Yes.
and Councillor Werner.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. The motion is adopted. Have a wonderful week. Be safe, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.